Welcome back, everyone. We're living in a time where it seems as though people are going to have some encounters with things they wouldn't believe actually existed until they see it for themselves. And the problem with that is, how do we know if what we saw was the truth? Is it the entity or creature's true form, or is it just a skin, a shell, a vessel? And so for a very long time, folks, I've been thinking about this, and it occurred to me that there are rules attached to cryptid encounters. It's just that nobody bothered to write them down as rules. You can't call them coincidences because they are patterns. And these entities do not exist too far outside of those patterns, you see? And if you were to stretch that idea into another topic, that would be indicative of a program or a process. What's the process? Well, let me explain. So when it comes to these encounters, whether it's Bigfoot or Dogman or Mothman or the Crawler or a UFO or an orb or shadow people, let's just strip away the surface level, and instead of asking what they are and where they come from, let's be as logical as we can be and just ask the question, what are they doing? What is this all about? And I'm beginning to strongly believe that the explanation for all these encounters are the encounters themselves. The only reason you had an encounter with the Hat Man is so that you could experience the encounter with the Hat Man. That's it. Because it's always about what happens after the encounter. So let me talk about the process of the system that's in place here. The starting point with this would be the location. We're talking about remote areas, mountain ranges, forested regions, water sources, power corridors, military or restricted airspace. These are the environments where, if an anomaly exists, it's easy for the anomaly to be misidentified or poorly recorded or just dismissed more than any other location, you see? These locations are where people are already alert. The lighting conditions are unusual, and these happen to be places where electromagnetic interference is present. So these encounters typically happen at locations where a person already has a high chance of noticing something unusual, like an unidentified figure. And these locations are what we call hot zones, right? Now, if you have an environmental factor, whether it's natural or artificial, that produces an electromagnetic disturbance, that could alter human perception and trigger fight or flight responses. It can also affect memory formation and interfere with electronics. And what do we hear that commonly occurs with UFO encounters? EM or electromagnetic interference, disorientation, time distortion, fear before people see anything, equipment failure. Now, what happens when people encounter Bigfoot? Sudden dread, confusion, silence in nature, poor memory recall, camera malfunctions. You see, there is a pattern, a process, the same physiological effects, but with different visual interpretations of the encounter. My Dogman story is going to sound very similar to your Bigfoot story. You see? What happens next is that there is this categorization of the encounter based on a cultural template. And so the brain fills in gaps when there is low visibility, when the fear is high, and when the context is ambiguous. So what I mean is when someone sees strange lights, they think UFO. When someone sees a large upright silhouette, they think Bigfoot or some other similar cryptid. But either one of those could originate from the same stressor, the same environmental anomaly, or the same moment of heightened alertness. All of these encounters requires the person to go through the same cognitive processing of the unknown. Now, when people try to make a connection like the connection between Bigfoot and UFOs, for example, the connection between them is a temporal overlap. So in other words, one anomaly primes the observer for another. In many reports, the UFO sighting happens first, then a Bigfoot encounter follows, or vice versa. And the events feel linked, even if they're not simultaneous. And when this happens, peripheral awareness increases. Threat detection goes into overdrive and normal stimuli feels abnormal. And the purpose of this is to redirect your attention and throw off your timing. And once your attention has been redirected and your internal sense of timing is disrupted, that's when the encounter has already done what it needed to do. Because from that point forward, you are no longer observing the environment the same way you did before. You're not just reacting to what's in front of you anymore. You're reacting to the possibility that something else might be there. Your awareness widens, your assumptions get weak, you don't have the same sense of certainty. And that's important because the system doesn't require you to believe in what you saw. It only requires you to question what you think reality normally looks like. Most people, if not all of them, want the encounter to resolve into an answer. They want confirmation. They want proof, right? But the system doesn't resolve it. It doesn't clarify anything. It leaves things unfinished on purpose. The cryptid is the one who ends the encounter, folks. And the lack of closure forces the mind to replay the experience, to analyze it, to revisit it from different angles. And every time you do that, the encounter is still happening, just not in the physical sense anymore. It's happening cognitively. It's happening psychologically. This is why they call it ghosting, folks. And people ghost each other in everyday life, and it tends to have the same psychological effects on the person. This is one of the reasons why I don't think it's a good idea to do this to people. Because it's a weapon. Sudden silence is a weapon. And this is why the physical details of these encounters are always inconsistent. Height varies, distance is unclear, time feels wrong, sound disappears, memory fragments. Because if the goal were observation, the details would be stable. But if the goal is disruption, if the goal is to interrupt a normal perception, then the ambiguity is the mechanism. You see, the encounter doesn't need to be clear. It needs to be unsettling. It needs to sit just outside your ability to categorize it cleanly. What people don't realize is that after the encounter, their behavior changes. People become more observant, more cautious, more inward. Some become obsessed. Others become quiet. Some start connecting dots they never noticed before. Some stop trusting surface level explanations altogether. The encounter creates a before and after line in a person's life. And that line doesn't exist because of what was seen, but because of how the person was altered or changed when they had the encounter. And this is why I don't believe these encounters are random at all. Random events don't follow rules. Random events don't repeat the same emotional arc across different people, different locations, different entities. But this does. The fear before sight, the silence, the distortion, the confusion, the lingering doubt, those are constants. The form is interchangeable, but the experience is not. So when we ask what Bigfoot is, or what the Hat Man is, or what those lights in the sky are, I think we're asking the wrong question. The better question is why these encounters occur in a way that produces the same internal outcome every single time. Because once you see that pattern, you start to understand that the encounter itself is the message, not the creature, not the craft, not the shape. The system doesn't introduce itself. It doesn't explain itself. It doesn't escalate unless you pursue it, right? It simply presents something that shouldn't be there long enough for you to notice, and then removes it. And from that moment on, whether you like it or not, you're no longer just living in reality. You're always questioning it. And that may be the only function this process ever needed to serve. Because, folks, the connection isn't in what people are seeing, but what's happening to them when they see it. Anyway, folks, that's going to be all for now, and there is more to come very soon, so stay tuned. Please click the thumbs up button and like this video for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Everyone have a great day or evening, and until next time, stay awake, stay aware, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all soon.